I want to be able to physically experience this too, doing drums and vocals and kind of having this like, I don't know, different side of it where it's like for lack of a better term, like, it's like a psychedelic type of experience when you're pushing your body physically to that brink.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, I am Rutger Vanderlaan. I play drums and do all the vocals in the band Possessive.
And Rutger, how would you describe the music of Possessive?
Well, oh man, this is always a tough question for musicians, but it has a lot of different inspiration. It was really created as a project that has elements of DB, power violence, black metal, doom metal. The idea was to kind of have a band that could really play a variety of different performances with a variety of different bands and tie in a lot of different elements. The first album that we had definitely was more DB influence and doom metal influence. And then we have a new album out now that definitely has more of a experimental and way more into the doom elements. Yeah, just as far as trying to be as dark and oppressive as possible. That's how I'd describe the sound.
So that's interesting because a lot of times bands who don't fit into one genre or who are not, easily categorizable struggle to find other bands that they can play with or, labels that will release their music. Why was it important for you that Possessive would be able to play with different kinds of bands?
Well, when we started the band, the other member, Marco Gonzalez, who plays guitar, me and him were in a black metal band called Tempestari. And at the time, our guitarist in that band lived pretty far away. So we would only be able to play occasionally with them. So it was just me and Marco at first, where we were putting together different songs and really just having fun we have a band practice space. I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with Boise, but it is the capital city in Idaho. And there is a nuclear bomb shelter that they built during the Cold War that's been turned into a practice space. And everybody calls it the bomb shelter. And me and Marco would go out there. We had a room out there and we would just put together these different parts of songs. And the idea was, Boise is directly in between Salt Lake City and Portland and Seattle or Spokane, Washington. There's so many different bands that would travel through. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of local heavy bands. So Boise tended to be skipped a little bit for a period of time. People would just go straight from Salt Lake City to Portland or Seattle. And just wanted to have a project that had, the ability to play with a lot of these bands that they're already driving through. And at the time, playing live was really important to us to kind of, build a little bit of a small scene. And there wasn't too much black metal or too much punk. When I mean punk, I mean like, D beat and like raw punk. So it was important to have this idea of, well, we can kind of, if there are bands that want to play, then let's get on these bills and then we have all these different elements that we can bring to the table where it's like, hey, if you're a black metal band, there's it's a good mix because we're not going to sound identical to you, but we could really complement each other. So that was the idea. Like it was important to us to have this. So yeah, that really natural, organic jamming out in a practice space mixed with this kind of pipe dream of drawing a little bit of attention to Boise. That was kind of the idea with the first album. With our new album, which is called Res Ipsa Loquitur, it's also important to kind of like, be able to play with a variety of different bands. So we just had our album release show where we had a noise project called Mutilated Circuitry play. We had a mincecore band, one of my favorite bands, very influential, Hummingbird of Death played. Marco is in another more of an post-hardcore band called Onsetter, where he plays bass. They also performed. We had a really oppressive doom metal act called Old Year play. Also, just really long, drawn out, dark, sad. And then we also had another band play called Go Rot, and they have an awesome mix of just different elements too, of all different types of, you know, doomy, fuzzy types of metal. So that was so important to us. Like, yeah, we can, and so in that way, with the second album release, kind of fulfilled that dream of like not only bringing a little bit of attention with touring bands that are driving through, but then local bands. What a great variety of different bands to play. And so that's why I think it was kind of really important to us in the beginning, and I think that's why it's kind of important to us now. And then it doesn't limit you when you're writing. If you want to write a little bit of more of a hardcore riff, or the vibe is like atmospheric black metal. Maybe you don't use all of it, but you're not limited when you're creating, and that's another reason why I like writing in that vein.
Yeah. I'm currently living in Malaysia, and we have a pretty small scene here where it's rare that you get to fill out a bill with, a lot of bands of the same type. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to find a bill, or even to get enough bands to play like an all doom metal bill or an all black metal bill or anything like that. And so there's a lot of like, whoever's free that day, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Is it like that in Boise?
it's gotten a lot more consistent, especially in the past 5 years. I mean, you'll have like straight death metal shows and straight like slam shows, and those genres of music are pretty, especially like slam hardcore stuff is pretty popular. But I no, like I totally feel that vibe too, though, where it's like you'll have like a mixed bill, totally kind of different genres, all within like the heavy realm.
Right. Yeah.
But it's kind of cool that way too, because man, I've been to some doom metal shows in the past where it's like, holy fuck, we just listened to like five doom metal bands. And then we're at the headliner and you're like, oh, I hate my life right now. Just like standing through this wall of noise for 6 hours. And so it's kind of cool to be able to switch it up. And so, yeah, there's a mix now, but yeah, very similar. Boise was kind of a smaller scene. I was here as a teenager, and we had a little mom and pop venue called The Venue. They're like some sort of non-profit, probably like Christian church affiliated of some sort. But what they did is they brought any and all bands to be able to play at their little venue. And so when I was like 15, 16, they would have a show there probably like during high peak touring times, at least like once a week or twice a month. And so I got to see a ton of cool like hardcore shows and like more like emo core shows and stuff like that. And then some like, what I would consider like experimental metal. But that was a really cool venue that existed. So I grew up going there. And then I moved around a bunch. And one of the places I lived was in Chicago. And they're like, talk about like, it's such a giant city. I played in a couple bands there. One was called Men as Witches, and the other one was called Worn Out. And Men as Witches was like a two-piece drum and bass, kind of doomy power violence band. Like we were really into like Iron Lung and other two-piece type bands. And Chicago is like one of those crazy cities where it's just giant. It's like so many shows going on all the time. And then like they have that consistency where it's like tonight is like a rockabilly show, or tonight is a grindcore show, and they'd have like 8 grindcore bands, come from all over to play. So when I moved back to Boise again, the venue that had been torn down and that was all gone. And then there's like one guy named Robbie who had a house and he would throw some shows out at his house. And so he was so cool and would always like pay the bands and kind of built that DIY idea again, like, hey, we can have shows. And he was kind of more of a curator of that, you know, it we're gonna have a build tonight, but it's gonna be like grindcore and a black metal band and a doom metal band. And that was really cool because that kind of shaped what me and Marco, he goes by Chubbs. What me and Chubbs were kind of inspired to do is like, you know, let's like do that mix. And then when we were at Robbie's playing a show, we met this guy named Corey. Corey's part of the band and has been since meeting him at that show. He played this noise set. I'll never forget it because he was wearing a full ghillie suit. And a ghillie suit's like a for snipers, or like people doing duck hunting. He's like wearing this giant ghillie suit, doing this like harsh power electronics set, which I'm kind of a nerd for that. I grew up for to like kind of really love power electronics and noise sets when I lived in Chicago because there actually was a scene for that and like fests for that and I don't know. But yeah, Corey, we met him at Robbie's house and so Corey's been part of the band ever since. So, he brings that noise element and he's such a talented musician. He plays in a variety of different bands that are not even in the heavy realm, but it brings like such a good perspective because he can write some really catchy stuff. So I think that's another thing with the second album is when Corey is, integrated, he's been integral and he's obviously integrated into this band so much, really can really feel his writing style on it. And he has a deep, deep appreciation for so many different types of music too. So he really brought a really cool, different element to it. So yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned when you started, it was you and Chubbs jamming. Are you writing songs in basically the same way? Is it now you Chubbs and Corey jamming together in the rehearsal space together?
Yeah, because I think that's where like I mean, I don't know. Everybody has a different perspective of like success of a band. I feel like that's where like the success of writing lies is everybody in the same space, in the same head space. They're present. Like you can't really think about anything else. Life has a lot of different hardships and good stuff, but so it's like this moment to be like in a headspace and in a space where you are taking all the influences, all the different things you've listened to, all the different bands you've seen, and really being able to like put that into a physical realm because and where I was going with that is like I feel like that's like band success. And so yeah, absolutely. This time we're not in the bomb shelter anymore. We have a different practice space, but it's just as like has just as much character if you catch my drift. But it it's been me and Corey and Chubbs all together in that space, really just, let's when we went to write Res Ipsa Loquitur, it was very much like we had a couple songs that we had written for live performance, and those were all written in the practice space. And what was cool about those, and those happened to be the songs Sun and Moon and Renege. And those two songs. So we were playing our old album live and we wanted some variety because just to kind of switch it up. So those two particular songs, those were written in the practice space to go along with the old set. And they really took shape and became part of the new album. And so then when we went to write some of the other songs, it was so fun because it was like, let's go dark, let's go heavy. Like, and we're all a little older now. So, I mean, I'm 35, Corey's 35, and Chubbs is 33. And so, like, our bodies hurt a little bit more now. And so, like, you know, the first album was like, let's do this much, this blasting, and for so long. And also, I do all the vocals in the band too. And so that's like a physical consideration when you're playing drums and doing vocals. So you have to be like almost tactical with the writing in the sense of, can you realistically play this live? Because that's another thing is like a lot of bands are not in their raw form, right? They have like the produced form, and then you hear them live and it's like, oh, okay, this is actually what they sound like. That was like a big thing for me is like, I want it to sound when we go to record it the same way we play it live, the same way we play it in the practice space, same way it sounds in the practice space. So like, I think that's one way to describe Res Ipsa Loquitur is like, you're just in the practice space with us. And we're just having this moment together. We're having this experience together. And also, with the intention of, I want to be able to physically experience this too, doing drums and vocals and kind of having this like, I don't know, different side of it where it's like for lack of a better term, like, it's like a psychedelic type of experience when you're pushing your body physically to that brink. So yeah, it really is we really wanted to get in the practice space, have that organic writing experience, be able to really hone in on what we can do live. And then when you listen to the album from beginning to end, my only thing I would maybe, say is like, yeah, it's like going into the practice space with us and just like sitting and listening to us play our set, because that's what we really tried to reflect with this recording. So
So, as you mentioned, the album that we're talking about is Res Ipsa Loquitur, and at the time we're having this conversation, it came out a few days ago through Brucia Records. I've spoken to a few drummers. I speak to a lot of vocalists or vocalists who also play an instrument, like, also play bass or also play guitar. I think you're the first person I've spoken to who does both drums and vocals. I'm assuming you play a lot of different instruments.
Actually, I just do drums. When I was growing up, I did like dabble in percussion, which is, like bells and chimes and that kind of stuff, where, you kind of learn the scales of the piano, some like basic music note comprehension. But no, I really never really got into guitar or anything. I always loved drums so much. Yeah, growing up, I started out, wanting to play drums. I was about like probably 9 or 10 years old. And then joining like my band in school with the with intention of playing the drum set, which you weren't allowed to do until you committed all this time to all the other crap instruments you don't want to play.
Right.
But no, and then, on the contrary, on the other side of the spectrum, you put any stringed instrument in Chubbs's hands and he can play it. It's just the most incredible thing. Corey as well, all stringed instruments, bass, guitar, baritone guitar, any of those, through to, playing synths and keyboards. So I always say this, but it's like a drummer is really nothing without the other members of the band. And band's really nothing without other members that are, committed to being there. So yeah, so with the vocals, you know, I never had done vocals and drums before Possessive. I did some vocals. I have this like experimental kind of MIDI drum death metal project that I do vocals on called Venus Slave, and that has a Bandcamp. And the vocals on that was, that's just like me and my buddy Ryan, where I was just doing vocals, no drums or anything. But with Possessive, I really wanted to do, you know, I was kind of like done dealing with like vocalists. I don't know how to explain it.
I think,
Anybody who,
yeah, I
yeah,
think anybody who's ever been in a band will understand what you're saying.
like they understand. Yeah, where we're like, oh, okay, this, because I think a vocalist can work if you are also kind of the production person that make sure everything is running smoothly and kind of, you know. But anyway, the I
Well, I will say this, just because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and also I've had some really lovely conversations with lead vocalists over the years,
right, no, totally.
but a lot of times that person is the person you put in front of the band because they are the most capable at drawing people in and also engaging with people, and also a lot of the marketing side or the logistical side sometimes falls to the vocalist.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there are a lot of like vocalists slash managers or vocalists slash, you know,
I,
yeah,
yeah, all of the successful bands definitely,
yeah, yeah.
they bring something to the table that is they have some sort of skin in the game other than, you know, just their attitude. But I no, I totally agree with you. Yes, I never done vocals before as far as like and drums at the same time. I saw a band, like I mentioned, Iron Lung do it, and that was like really, really badass. So when I was in Chicago, my band was called Men as Witches. That was that kind of drum and bass band I was talking about. So when I was in my early 20s. So I dabbled in doing some vocals in that and playing drums. The idea was because we were just a two piece. So like my buddy Harold that was in that band, he would do all like the higher vocals, and then I would do like all the mid and lower kind of style vocals. But I could only really do them, during like more of the doomy parts, slower parts for the drums. And so then with Possessive, it was like a whole different ball game because like we have like like I mentioned earlier, all this variety of different genres, plus the intensity of doing all these different like vocal styles. So that has brought a different physical component to it for sure. But there's some bands that really pull it off. So like Spectral Voice is a band. I just recently got to see them play here in Boise actually. And that's a band that has like a drummer vocalist and it is just like so badass. So it just takes, when it's on, it's on. So
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the vocals would be easier for the doomy parts, but when you're blasting or playing D beats, do you have an approach? Is there a specific technique that you employ to scream and stay on beat at the same time?
yeah, it's like you kind of just have to train your body to almost I don't know. Someone was like, you're the Phil Collins of death metal. That was like the best compliment I got because like your head your head is going, your head is in one space and then your like body is in a different space. So it's like kind of muscle memory mixed with that. And then like a lot of different like opera techniques and I wouldn't have considered like opera techniques to have helped me with vocals, but the idea is you fill your abdomen with so much air that your body can not only use the air, the oxygen for your energy to play, but then you're able to push it. The other thing is like just overall generally taking care of your throat because, you know, goodness gracious, it's when you get in the zone too, especially depending on how loud like the sound system is where you're playing or anything like that. Oh man, it can be real easy to throw out your voice and stuff. And that's just kind of like that. So the technique is for me is like to really push as much air as I can or hold as much air in my abdomen as I can. And then, really push it to that brink where I'm not throwing out my throat because like that's the other physical component. It's got to last you from, if you play like a 40 to 60-minute set, your throat's got to last you the whole time. And so, yeah, that's pretty much as far as my technique goes. The other thing is like really just kind of like sitting down with the second album and doing the vocals sitting. So I was thinking about doing like playing drums and doing vocals at the same time. We experimented with that when we were recording, but you know, we settled on me sitting on the drum throne and then doing my vocals that way because that mimicked, actually what you're going to be doing live, you know. So I think one thing I want to try in the future is like doing all the vocals live, the whole band recorded live. There's just something about like a full band recording that sounds really badass too. So yeah.
Yeah. You guys tracked this one separately?
Yeah, so this one we went out to my buddy Jesse's house in Fruitland, Idaho. It was like a super small like orchard town and it smells like onions for miles. And he has a little shed in his backyard and there's a couple goats and some cows and all that kind of stuff. And he built this little practice space slash recording studio in this shed. And it's just like so charming and homemade. It has all this Pantera merch all over the place and hypo negative merch and all that stuff. And he plays in a band called Ashes of Abaddon. And they had a show not too long ago. Very thrashy, super cool, kind of like modern metal, thrash metal, really cool stuff. But anyway, so he recorded us and had this awesome we just have a great time with him, it's just like so we just track everything separately. Like I brought my drums over and like you let them get acclimated overnight and then we lay down all the drum tracks and Chubbs went out before I got out there and he put some stuff to a click and then we kind of do some click mapping and that kind of stuff. But then when we go through and record, there was some stuff where I'm like, I just want to do this naturally. So Jesse's so cool to be able to, let's take the click off or let's do something like that where, and then it has that more natural feel. It's your own tempo in the parts that need it, where they need that breath and the ebb and flow of like an actual drummer and not a machine. And then yeah, we just like unfortunately we all couldn't like be there all at the same time because we'll have like crazy lives. I don't know if you guys can hear my kid crying in the background, but we'll have like these little Corey and I have little kids and Chubbs has little dogs and stuff. Anyway, we're all just like we haven't had the luxury of being able to just like all be there at once to record. So because recording is such a long process, so we have to, plan out a day for the drums, plan out a day or two for the drums, and then guitars and noise stuff, bass, and then I'll go back out and then do the vocals, and then it takes like an hour to drive out to Fruitland. So yeah,
So Jesse also worked on your previous album. Besides the fact that he's your friend, what do you like about working with Jesse? What would you say he brings to your sound?
he just has this awesome like presence. So he just really has this nice like calming presence. He's like a bassist too and a vocalist of his band. So kind of just like has this like objective perspective on how to make things like a lot more, I don't know. He'll he'll really be like, this sounds so cool, or the way you played it was so awesome, or he'll like give you a little like, I think you could do this part a little bit better or not better. Or that part sucked. You should do it a little bit different. He'll like come in with some suggestions that are objective, but they don't have that like criticism vibe.
Right.
And then he was really cool with like, I don't know, we're like, well, we're gonna do this like crazy noise interlude and all this different noise texture stuff. And he was so cool. Like you'll hear some of these like different textures in the power electronics throughout the album. And there's one part like Jesse like recorded himself scraping saw blades together. I guess it's really cool, like scraping and power electronic sound to it. So he just like does, and there's some whispering on the track Instigation, and that's totally just me get letting Jesse have the mic and do some like I was like I just want some like really creepy whispering because that's what I do live is just like whispering to the mic, kind of doing that part. And so he did all that. So it's just like those kind of things. Right, I can work with Jesse, and he's just really, really chill, really awesome, and has this just like I said, calming presence, and kind of lets you do whatever experimental shit you want to do, and it turns out really cool.
We should mention that I'm not sure if we said his full name. Jesse Wetzel. Is there a name for a studio?
No name for his studio. He just has his own, just kind of does referrals and stuff. He just recently had a little kid, and so he's just doing the dad thing. And but we'll get out into the studio with him for our next one too. Just kind of like, he just was like this awesome lightning strike of a person I met. And so it's been really cool to have the privilege to have access to his studio and his life. So yeah.
Do you want to say anything about Francisco Sanchez, who mastered the album?
Yeah.
How did he get involved with this?
Yeah. Cisco is he's a new acquaintance. He recorded some of Corey's other bands. So Corey's in this like really cool kind of rock band called Roller Dome. And he did some work for them. And so Corey got that connection. His studio is called One Man Clan Productions, and he does take clients and he does awesome work. So Possessive, Corey and Chubbs and I also this last winter, we wrote this other band called Flesh Dirt to, it's kind of like a different, sadder side of us. Anyway, it was not meant to be under the moniker Possessive by any means. So we recorded all that with Cisco, and he has all this awesome analog equipment. So that's where we ran the Possessive recordings that Jesse did. He was able to send all that over to Cisco, and Cisco mastered it through all this analog mastering equipment, which just has this more like, it has just a little bit more powerful sound. It's more raw sound too. So yeah.
I mean, one of the things I like about the sound of the album, in terms of the production, is it's not rooted to any particular like era of metal. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of like throwback recordings, or people purposefully trying to get this like, you know, late '80s, early '90s kind of sound. In a lot of ways, the sound reminds me more of like crust and grind recordings. Like it's got this rawness and this immediacy to it.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. It has, and that's what, we gave Jesse some bands to listen to and kind of say, you know, these are some, I, if anybody knows some of the prices that it costs to go and have something recorded and mixed and mastered at some of these studios, that some of the bigger labels, I mean, they're not huge labels, but even like 20 Buck Spin or Profound Lore or some of these bands on those Southern Lord, I mean, it's expensive. It's no way around it. It sounds heavy and it sounds insane because, there's a market for it, and it costs a certain amount of money, right? So Jesse, it's working with Jesse was just kind of like, here's some bands that we like. They have, just kind of a mix of different stuff. All of us sent him different stuff, but he just like took all that and was like, okay, and then we just kind of like all pitched in for some different mics for him, and what different techniques that he wanted to try versus the first album. So yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of like more of that crust and grind feel in the recording, kind of buzzsawy on the guitar and stuff, and which I really like. Yeah.
the album is out now. Do you have anything planned for the end of the year or maybe the beginning of 2025 in terms of tours or shows or things like that?
So yeah, we played our album release show on November 8th. The album officially came out November 7th and through Brucia Records, and they've been just such an awesome label to work with. So being a drummer in Boise, playing with a lot of different musicians, and I played with Reggie Townley, who is in The Sun in the Mirror,
Yeah.
and The Sun in the Mirror is signed to Brucia. Yeah. And me and Reggie played in this, we call it like tantric black metal. It's called Lunar Temple. And just I had an awesome connection with Reggie. And, it's kind of like we finished this album and, kind of send it out to some people, kind of see what the vibe is, check the temperature. And, Brucia was just like, Reggie referred us. And then, I got to talking with Void, and it was just a really good connection. So we have a lot of the same kind of like ideals and kind of visions for like music and stuff. So it's just a very organic connection. And that being said, yeah, Bruce had just been amazing. We planned this album release show and it was just really, really great turnout. We sold so many copies. So we have very few left to put up online, which I'm planning on doing. So the plan is moving forward is we're just going to kind of rest for the rest of the year and kind of tuck in for the winter and do some writing. And then,
It sounds like you have enough projects to keep you busy.
yeah, and then just, just kind of tuck in and just in 2025, I'm really just of this mindset right now that we're just going to take it one day at a time. And we have no plans right now, but a pipe dream is definitely to go to Europe to play for kind of more a Brucia label curated crowd. But I don't know when that will happen. That'll just depend on a lot of coordinating between a lot of moving parts. But moving forward, yeah, we definitely have plans for a third Possessive album. I don't know when or who is going to put that out, but so yeah, that's kind of the plan for Possessive moving forward. So, and just getting the second album out there, letting it circulate. We live in like just such a time of just like such, you know, man, it take you forever to consume all the different media and entertainment that is out there. So it's for us right now, it's just like letting it circulate and kind of simmer and really just get out to the as many people as we can, and then to eventually do more over the pond, because that's one thing I think is it'd be really cool to also go to Mexico. Chubb's his whole family from Mexico, and they're starting to have more and more metal fests and crazy awesome touring abilities and stuff. So I want to go down there, and then yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, very much other than those pipe dreams, just trying to take it one day at a time.
I just want to say a word about Brucia. I did speak to Void maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. I'm not sure. I really like the label a lot. The Sun in the Mirror you mentioned as well. They put out a lot of interesting stuff that's not specific to one genre, and a lot of bands that are more in the experimental realm. And everyone should go check them out, if for no other reason than the fact that all the releases on their Bandcamp page are free.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that. Like the whole roster at Brucia is so unique. There's not a single album you'll pick that won't kind of strike a different chord. Some of them have like such incredible depth, and we're lucky to be part of such a talented, cool label. And they, like I mentioned earlier, same ideals. They just have these, they everything's free on Bandcamp, because at this point, we can't really compete with what's happened, with music, marketing, and how much money bands make, and we all don't do it for the money, but, it is nice to be able to commoditize your art and to be able to to make a somewhat of a living off of it. So I think we hold that ideal with Brucia where it's like, at this point, why even try competing with some of these, like Spotify? Everybody pays $15, has Spotify. They don't pay anybody anything. Everybody knows it, but we still, still do it. So why not just get it from the label for free? Because at this point, if you feel like giving money to someone, there's the ability to do that.
Yeah. And I should clarify what I meant. The releases are available as name your price downloads. You do have the ability to pay more if you want. The last thing I want to say about Brucia before we wrap up is I speak to a lot of labels who are kind of looking to the past. Like there's always this like 1986, 1988, 1992 kind of like, in the old days, revivalism. And I'm really bad at predicting what people will like and what they'll, what will become popular. But when I listen to the bands of Brucia, my feeling is like, this is the future. This is like, people may not get this stuff now, but they'll get it in 5 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like Cisco even said it to us too. He's like Francisco Sanchez, who mastered it. He even said, y'all are just getting started, the because even with everything and the feedback we've gotten with this album, the next whatever we write next, we have so much to be inspired by. And I agree. Yeah, everything on Brucia is like when I think of like true artists that have like the true artistic capability, I look at that roster of Brucia and I'm like, yep, I agree. This is the future. It might not catch on now, but it will.
Yeah. So, Res Ipsa Loquitur is out now through Brucia Records. Rutger, please tell everyone how they can order the album. What's the best way to get it?
I would go to the Brucia Records web store and order it directly from them in CD format for €12. And it's just a really awesome CD. It has a booklet with a poster, a full interview with the band, more of a candid interview. That's another thing is like, a lot of black metal bands and heavier bands like let's be mysterious and which is cool. Totally. I honor that, whatever. But it's more of a candid interview, just to kind of get to know the band a little bit on a more personal level. And then soon to be updated is the band's Bandcamp. And we also are going to attempt to do an amp wall. It's just an alternative to Bandcamp. But we're going to also
That's Chris Gregg's platform, right?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of a cool alternative, and we're gonna try that out too, as recommended to us. So the other option is you can order directly from the band. So we're on Instagram and Facebook. You can add us. Our Instagram is possessive.band. And on there, you can just message and we can arrange sale and shipping through that way. So those are some few options to get the CD.
Are you guys doing merch through your Bandcamp page, or are you just selling stuff through Instagram?
So the Bandcamp page does not currently have merch up. Right now, we went through all of our CDs at our record release show. So I have a very small quantity left that we'll be putting up on Instagram for sale. The shirts that we had are all sold out as well. So we're going to have to make some more merch. And that's also something that's going to be in the works. So for now, I just encourage everybody to buy the CD either through Brucia or through the band directly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And is the Instagram page the best way to follow the band online?
Yeah, that's the best way to follow the band online. Social media is just kind of one of those like strange fruit of the poisonous tree type things. So yeah, Facebook or Instagram is perfect. Our contact information is also on our Bandcamp as well. And our old album is on our Bandcamp. So please, you can always get in touch with us through that. But Instagram is so easy and easy way to make a connection with us. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say?
It's really awesome and cool to, be on an awesome podcast. You have some really awesome different interviews that you've done. So thank you for having me. And I'm just really, again, thankful for the connection I have with Brucia, my new connection with Dreams of Consciousness. And I hope that everybody is going to at least take a listen to the album and let us know what you think. And then if you're so inclined, yeah, please purchase a copy of the CD, because if we are able to get through these CDs, that's more of an incentive for us and the label to possibly put it on wax. So,
Are there any updates for your other projects that you want people to know about?
I have another project called Flesh Dirt. We'll be coming out with an album soon. That has been recorded by Francisco Sanchez. And we had our first show with a Portland black metal band called Felsenmeer. And that was back in August. So keep an eye out maybe for that one. And then as far as other projects, Marco is in a band called Onsetter, who has a really awesome album if you like post-hardcore, on this label called Mishap Records, and they're a local label. So definitely check out that. And then Corey, he has a couple bands. One is called Roller Dome. The other one's called Street Echoes. And then he's obviously in Possessive and in Flesh Dirt. So we're busy and we have a lot of different acts that we do, but Possessive is really our baby. So that really is our core project. Other than that, Tempestari also has a new album that's going to be coming out on Vendetta. And yeah, so there's some different things in the mix. In that particular Tempestari album, me and Chubbs are not on, but it is a really incredible album. So just a plug for that one too. The other things in the works this winter, another Possessive album, but we're really going to just take our time and have fun and experiment with this next one.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Rutger.
Thank you so much.